Welcome to the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, where we break down Bendis' iconic run on Ultimate Spider-Man, issues 1 through 160 in Earth 1610. I'm Zach, and I'm joined today by the Easter Bunny, Johnny O.
Happy Easter!
Hopping on the pod.
Oh, wow. Zach, you know what I just saw yesterday?
What's that?
So you sent me the notes for the episode, which I've never looked at, by the way, because I like to come in surprised, you know? And
are you still, when I tag you in my note, it sends it to you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't realize that.
Well, I never look at it.
Okay.
But I did yesterday because I wanted to see what issue I was doing and blah, blah, blah. I saw that your intro that you always do, I thought maybe you put it on there and you were going to give me some very strange name coming into this episode.
I changed my mind. I made it more holiday themed.
Well, that's good. I like the Easter Bunny better.
Damn it! I have to
start... the original one that Zach was going to give me was where is it?
Don't say it because I'll use it eventually.
Oh, it's gone. Well, I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't even know the words.
It was from the Key and Peele East-West Bowl skit where all the football players just have outrageous names.
Oh, okay.
I guess I can't use it now. I figured you'd maybe get that reference, but...
No, I didn't. Okay.
I've
had
that
X-Wing Aloysiousness.
Johnny X-Wing at Aliciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's been on my list of, John superlatives for about a year now. And I always look at it, and I'm like, no, not today. I've still got better ones to use.
Yeah, well, now you can't use it. Now
I'm not going to.
How you doing, Easter? I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. I was going to say you'll never guess what Shyla and I did yesterday, but you probably
Easter egg hunt.
No.
Okay, wait, let me guess. Wait. Why would you ask me this? I don't know. You watched Invincible. Who knows?
We did do that this week. Do you know what Columbus, Indiana is known for? I know you do because I told you on the drive down to Louisville.
I was thinking this sounds familiar, but is it I'm only guessing this because a lot of places in Indiana are known for this, but is it like a KKK thing?
No. I mean, I hope not. I don't know. It's architecture. It's like the architectural capital of Indiana. And so we stayed in a hotel there on Friday night, and on Saturday took an architectural guided tour of Columbus, Indiana.
Oh my gosh.
I knew that you would appreciate that.
This is becoming the funniest bit of all time.
Well,
Zach is going to change his career into architecture and start designing buildings all as a bit to bore Shyla.
Oh my God. We went by the IU Graduate School of Architectural Design, and she was nudging me and pointing huh? You want to get a master's degree in architecture?
Well, I think maybe I've told you before, but there are some places at IU that are kind of architecturally well known. I think one of the buildings doesn't have any right angles in it, which is just something that they told us when we were doing our freshman orientation. And then there's another one that has a full-size tree growing in the middle of it or something. And those are the two that I remember. I don't know if you know what either of those buildings are.
I don't. I wanted to go to IU, but I didn't try in school, so I went to ISU, which stands for I Screwed Up.
Indiana State?
Yes.
Dude, they're still in the NIT.
Well, that's good. I'm sure that makes my degree more worthwhile.
Well, that's all right then.
Yeah. New catchphrase for the pod. No, the tour was so awkward because it was 2 hours, and right off the bat, the tour guide is like, hey, just want to get this out there. I'm a volunteer. I'm a physician. I'm not an architect. Do we have any architects on the tour with us? Because that's always intimidating. And Shila's like staring at me and smiling. And he's like, "You, sir, are you an architect?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And then she goes, "He's an aficionado." And the guy's like, "Well, that's even worse." And the whole time we'd show up to something, and before he tells us about it, he'd point to it and he'd be like, "Young man, I'm sure you can tell us what this is." And I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Oh
god,
my
dude,
God."
that's so annoying. That is so So did you know about any of it, or were you just like, no, I have no idea?
I made a couple educated guesses early on too, which made it even worse because then he just asked me more. But no, I did not know a lot of this stuff.
Of course
I'm
not.
there. I'm there to learn. I'm not
Yeah,
there because I
exactly.
already know it.
Oh wow, dude, that would like if it that would like give me anxiety to be to be in that situation.
It kind of did, but also the tour ended, and I was like, man, now that I don't work on Fridays, I could really see myself like studying up on specifically that tour and like the stuff in Columbus, Indiana, and be like, yeah, I'll be one of your
Volunteers.
volunteer guides,
Oh my
whatever.
gosh, you'd love that. You should do that.
2 Fridays a month, just walk some old people around and tell them about something I'm interested in.
You
Sounds
should
fun.
definitely do that. You could also like just lie and nobody would know. Like be like the Frank on It's Always Sunny when they're like on the tour boat. Just make up anything you want to.
There's a line in Step Brothers when he's showing Will Ferrell the house, and he's like, "It was built in 1860 by General Custer."
Oh, that's right.
When I was in high school and I would like show people around my house, I'd give them the tour, I would always say that line.
I wonder how many people like you had registered that.
I don't know. I hope no one took me seriously, but that's most of my life is I do things and I'm doing it as like a bit, but I come across so
I know you
dry.
are.
People walk away and they're like, "What the hell is that guy's deal?"
That's awesome. You guys got any big Easter plans today? We're not as timely on the pod anymore because we're going to talk about Easter, and then we're obviously going to talk about the games that are on today, and the listeners won't hear about it for a week.
Yeah, that's true. Don't think we can do anything about that though. No
No,
sense
we
belly
can't.
aching. I'm just going to my parents for dinner. What about you? You got big Easter plans?
Going to the parents for brunch,
Nice.
and I've actually got a ham smoking outside.
Ooh, that'll be nice.
Yep.
Do you like
Yeah.
make a candied ham? Shyla does that for holidays, and it's always a treat.
I've never done it before, and I did not put a lot of effort into it. I basically it's a pre-cooked ham because if you want to like actually cook it yourself, then you have to like brine it for like a week, and it's a pre-cooked ham, and then I just put like salt, pepper, and brown sugar on it, and poured Coca-Cola on it, and stuck it on the smoker, and we'll see how it is. I mean, I assume it won't be bad because it'll be better than any ham my parents would have made because all they would do is throw it in the oven.
Yeah.
They're like just standard people, no seasoning, no
Yeah.
nothing. Just
We're Midwestern white people. Everything they
Yeah.
say about us is true.
yeah. So it should be good.
Well, cool. Hope that turns out good. Hope you have a good Easter with the fam.
You too.
You
Should
coming
we
in
get-
hot with anything?
I mean, Purdue has a big game today. That's where most of my mental energy has gone since I've woken up this morning is thinking about the Purdue Tennessee game.
It's so funny that you're literally an IU Hoosier alum, and you're not like rooting against Purdue.
I don't think anybody is rooting against Purdue at this point. If they went I don't think IU people are rooting against Purdue today. I think they're rooting for Purdue. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's it's like a rivalry, but there's like a sense of it's all Indiana,
Yeah,
And I have that more than most. I root for Purdue more than IU because I don't care at all. I root for Michigan football and Purdue basketball. And, but I bet most people are rooting for Purdue. I know all of the Hoosiers that I know are rooting for Purdue today.
Yeah. Okay. Well then, in the
So
spirit
what's
of
gonna happen?
Hoosiers, I hope they win.
So what's gonna happen, Zach?
You want me to predict it?
I want you to predict it. Purdue versus Tennessee. Go.
Purdue 75, Tennessee 68.
All right, folks. Check back in a week when you listen to this. Purdue 75-68. Okay, I'm putting my house on that. Purdue's only -3, so everybody, Zach says bet Purdue.
All right.
Okay, you coming in hot with anything else?
Nope. I just thought you'd like to know about my tour.
I definitely did. That was awesome.
All right. Let's send it over to the Better Business Bureau.
Every business says they're better. But the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Zach, I have the first issue today, which I feel
You
like
sure
hasn't
do.
happened in a while.
No.
Okay, just to give a little background on our story here, we're in the Clone Saga, and Zach and I we both loved this one last week. I mean, both the issues were just great. And there's Peter, and there's a clone lizard Peter, and Gwen is back. And
Gwen returned.
and somehow Gwen returned, and we got to meet Reed Richards the Maker, which just added some fun. Any other major points in this that we should do? Oh, and some clone Peter is with Mary Jane right now in a glass cage.
Yeah.
So, issue 99, Clone Saga Part 3, written by Brian Michael Bendis, penciled by Mark Bagley, inked by John Dell and Drew Hennessy, colored by Justin Ponzer, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. Peter is standing in the doorway at the old house that he, Gwen, and Aunt May used to live at. He and Gwen are looking at each other, and they're confused but somewhat scared, because remember, Gwen just walked in, and they're like, what in the world's going on? So Peter asks Gwen who she is, and Gwen asks him what's going on, and Peter just kind of screams at Gwen, like, who are you? And he tells her that she's dead. And Gwen tells him that she's not dead, and Peter says, yeah, you are. You died right here in the backyard. And Peter kind of begins to break down, and he's assuming that he's losing his mind and he's seeing stuff, when Gwen grabs Peter's face to console him and tells Peter that she's right there with him. And he looks at her and says, where did you come from? Interesting. What do you think of the setup, Zach?
I think it's interesting that on Easter Sunday, she is risen.
Wow.
Good setup.
Did you think of that last night, or did that just come to you while I was reading this?
It came to me like 10 minutes before we hopped on.
I like it. Is that because you checked Facebook and you saw 1 million people post, he is risen?
My mom texted it to everyone.
That's like the most classic, dude. I just...
As if we didn't know. As if we didn't do this last year.
As if we didn't know. Of course, our Lord and Savior has risen.
So, when I was in high school, me and my friends used to get up to...
My friends and I.
Okay, grammar Nazi. My friends and I used to get up to bad but not like the same bad that everyone else was doing. Like, we weren't doing drugs or drinking or having sex. We were just, doing stupid stuff. Like Jackass style hijinks. And we stole... It was Christmas time, and someone had their nativity scene out in their yard, and we stole the baby Jesus because we thought it was funny.
Dude.
And listen, we felt bad, and so around Easter, we brought it back to the exact same house with a note that said, he is risen.
That's awesome. See, that's great. My friends and I used to do similar stuff to that, which is so innocent in the grand scheme of things, but we would walk around the neighborhood at night, and there was like a neighborhood patrol, and we just like walk around and wait till they would see us, and then just run through backyards.
Yep.
And then the type of stuff, we wouldn't like vandalize anything. I mean, some people might say this is like vandalized, but if yards had like big heavy rocks in them, or like one had like a heavy bench that I specifically remember, and we'd pick it up and we'd just put it on their front porch. So they'll come out in the morning and be like, what the is this? But yeah, man, good times.
Yeah.
It really is like so innocent compared to like what teenagers could be getting up to. But
Yeah. I can distinctly remember like running from the cops. And it's not like we had anything to run from. We were just breaking curfew. But it was just something about that like cat and mouse game.
Oh, dude, I would never dream of running from the cops, but we ran from the neighborhood patrol, or it's like the security guard car, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, that's just Dave.
Yeah. Oh man, where were we in here?
Sorry, got you off track. So
no, that's okay.
Gwen had just risen.
Yeah, that's right. So
it was a good setup. You asked me.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I like it. It's a good hook.
So Peter, though, dude, I can just already tell I'm just not going to like what they're doing with Gwen here. I just don't like it.
Isn't it nice to have her back?
No, because it's not her, and we know it's not her, and it just feels like...
Well, we don't know that yet. Well, first of all things are possible through God, so jot that down.
That's true. Maybe, yeah, you know what? That's true. Let's go in with a fresh something. So Peter asks Gwen where she's from, and then we cut to the rundown Oscorp building where MJ and the shadowy Peter are there just kind of hanging out. And Shadow Peter says, this is where it happened. This is where Spider-Man was born. And maybe you remember, Zach, but that is what the lizard Spider-Man was saying in the mall.
Oh, yeah.
This is where it happened, remember? Because I was like, well, maybe he's talking about like something that happened at the mall. But obviously, he's not. He's talking, they're like getting mixed memories or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, good catch. Hey, just for clarification, you kept calling him the lizard, Peter, and I was like, who's he talking about? He's a scorpion.
Oh, my God.
I only make the distinction because there already is a lizard.
I know. That's why I thought it was weird that he looked so much like a lizard.
Nope. Different little creepy crawly.
Okay, Scorpion Peter. So... Scorpion Peter, is kind of villain monologuing to MJ a bit.
No, this isn't Scorpion Peter.
Oh, I'm sorry. This
Peter.
is Shadow Peter. That's right. Okay. And I call him Shadow Peter because he's been shadowed every time we've seen him so far.
Right. Perhaps there's a big reveal around the corner.
Zach, stop spoiling everything in this issue. So Peter's villain monologuing to MJ, and he says he's smarter than he acts. And he figured out that MJ can't survive all of these things that happen to her with him as Spider-Man. Eventually something will get her. So instead of breaking up with her, he's going to make her like him. Well, like, make her similar to him. Not like, right, Zach?
Right, yeah, as we all know.
And then he walks out of the shadow to reveal a Two-Face type of face, and MJ screams in her glass cage. And let's take a minute to break this face down, okay? It's pretty ugly.
Only a mother could love it.
But I do think there's something to it where it is almost supposed to look like the burned off portion of his face has a Spider-Man costume underneath it, not his like brain and I think
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's like tissue. It's like exposed tissue, but I can see what you're saying where it kind of looks like it's the shape of like the webbing on his costume.
Yeah. So
Do you notice his costume too? It's
is it different? Is his like spider bigger? Is it like more intimidating looking kind of than normal Spider-Man costume?
it looks all up like it's supposed to be creepy. It looks like something a scarecrow would be wearing. It's all like stitched together to look like a Spider-Man suit, but it's just a creepy sweater.
Oh yeah, I do see that now. This guy's spider on it. It looks like the Paxton Parnell. It just looks like him for some reason.
He gives very Paxton Parnell vibes.
Yeah.
This might have been the proto Paxton.
Is that the actual name?
I think it's Patton.
Okay.
Patton Parnell.
So we then cut to the Baxter building where Reed and Sue are looking at the scorpion spider. And I just love seeing, I was about to say Uncle Reed. I just love seeing Reed. I think he's so interesting now that this new thing's coming out. I was thinking about it this morning, and we just have to like follow up on that run. Like when the next one comes out, I think we've got to just read it. You know,
Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I've got issues 2 and 3 here. I have not read 3
Oh, they're
yet.
already out?
Yeah, I just picked it up on Friday.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know that. Okay, so we might have to do another bonus here.
I feel like it's going to be hard switching back and forth between them. I mean, I'm definitely going to be reading it either way, but I don't know if we should like get through this and then get through Hickman's run.
We'll see.
I don't know.
So we're at the Baxter building. Reed and Sue are looking at the spider scorpion, and they try to speak to him and ask him who he is and what he's doing. And the lizard Peter just says, "Am I back at the zoo?" But when Reed and Sue try to ask what the zoo is or tell him what happened to him, you know, they say, "Well, you were thrashing the mall and Spider-Man beat you up and brought you here." Peter just screams, "Shut your mouth!" and tries to attack them from behind the cage.
Real quick,
I couldn't really tell. Okay, yep.
Can I point out something
Yes.
about this establishing shot that shows the Baxter building?
Absolutely.
I just want to talk about the architecture here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you notice about it when you see this shot?
Tall.
It is tall.
Glass windows.
Glass, okay. What about the spires?
It looks phallic.
That it does. There's 4 points at the very top of this building for the Fantastic Four.
The Fantastic Four. Oh my gosh. So do you think this was built after they became the Fantastic Four, or was this just a stroke of luck?
I think it's meant to be played as a stroke of luck, but I don't think Bagley drew it like this by accident. If that makes sense. And then I'm thinking the top pillar, like these 4 pinnacles are not even. They're not even in size, and they're not evenly spaced. There's one that's bigger and taller than all the rest. I feel like that's got to be how Reed sees himself.
Yep.
And then also the idea that all being glass is like a very modern, almost futuristic look, but it's modernism. So there's like no other material I would expect them to have it built out of unless they had like whatever, like nanotech or something. So Mark Bagley knew his stuff.
What was the Mark Bagley knew his stuff. He drew a big skyscraper with 4 points on it.
But he did a hell of a job.
Yeah, that's true. So Scorpion Peter yells, "Shut your mouth," and he tries to attack them, but he hits the force field wall he's enclosed in. And I couldn't really tell what happened. He like grabs his face and like knocks himself out, or he gets knocked out or something. He gets knocked out, and as he's like passing out, he says, "The others, the zoo is where the other," and then he passes out. Zach, what happened? Do you know?
I think he wasn't supposed to try and break out of the force field.
So you think the force field did that?
I don't know. He hit it, and it like I guess maybe it backfired on him or something.
Okay. So Reed and Sue theorize that someone made a clone of Peter, and then they did some experiments to it, and the brain is misfiring. And they believe that the suit is keeping him alive and healthy, and if they remove it, his spine will immediately give out. And they agree that they need to talk to Nick Fury about this. This is too big to keep from Nick Fury. Why?
Just last issue, they were like, oh yeah, we can keep this from Nick Fury.
I know. They went to him immediately. And so Peter and Gwen are sitting on the floor back at the house, and Gwen explains that she just woke up in a hospital room and she doesn't remember how she left or how she got to the house. But then we see some blurry flashbacks kind of as she's saying this. And we can see in the first one that a doctor is attacked in the hospital after Gwen wakes up. But we don't see how he's attacked or by whom. And then we see flashbacks of a police shootout in the hospital. And then lastly, we see the view of the city from the side of a skyscraper. And then Gwen again says she doesn't remember what happened.
Do you want me to tell you which skyscraper that is?
Definitely.
I think that's 30 Rock.
I mean, how could you possibly...
The windows and that ledge. I think that's 30 Rock looking south on downtown.
Zach, you should change your name to Art Vandelay. And you should become an architect.
Or lead a guided tour in
Columbus,
Columbus,
I was going to
Indiana.
say, you should at least do that. I was going to say do an architect pod, but yeah, or at least do a guided tour.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I got to study up some.
So Peter asks to see Gwen's hospital bracelet, and as he's about to look at it, Aunt May opens the door, and there's a big beam of sunlight, like, going through her chest, and I don't even think that's important, but I cannot tell what it is. There's a couple panels here where I just don't know what is going on.
I thought she was holding a flashlight, but I guess maybe she's not. I think it's just that she opened the door and let the light from the street light in.
Okay, I'm definitely okay with saying she's holding a flashlight. I will buy that. Okay. But then you got to explain what's happening in the next panel. So Aunt May opens the door, she's holding a flashlight, she's shining it at him, and she's completely shocked and freaked out looking at Gwen. And so then in the next panel, Aunt May's like freaked out. She turns to run away, but it almost looks like she's like shot by something in the back. And then she turns and runs away, like holding her head.
I think that's just an effect for us. I think that's like she's shocked.
Okay, well, there's a lot of strange lighting effects in these two panels back to back that I did not understand what was happening.
I will give you that, but I think you're reading into it too closely.
Okay. So she runs off screaming, and Peter tries to call after her, and Gwen says, "Oh man, I was dead," after seeing how freaked out Aunt May is. And May runs to the other house and grabs the phone as Peter and Gwen run in after her. And Peter sits with Aunt May, and we finally get the scene of Peter explaining everything to Aunt May. And
only took 99 issues.
Yes, exactly. And Peter says, I'm going to read it. Peter says, "I'm Spider-Man. I've always been Spider-Man. I put on a costume and I try to help people. It's me. And Gwen was killed, or so I thought, by a monster who was looking for me. But just this second I discovered that she's not dead. She's here, and I just found her when you found us. And I'm terrified that MJ might be out there in trouble because of me. I'm always worried she's in trouble because of me, and we're just trying to figure out what's going on." And Peter and Aunt May and Gwen just kind of all look at each other. And Aunt May says, "Say the first part again." And he says, "Spider-Man, it's me." And Aunt May says, prove it. And she looks really like just mad throughout this whole thing. And she says, prove it. And Peter jumps onto the ceiling and she's like, okay, get your ass down. and like I said, she just looks angry. And, you know, she looks at Gwen and she says, take whatever this is and get out of my house. And then Aunt May yells at Peter, you're not my son. I gave up my entire adult life to take care of you, even though you're not my son, and you've done nothing but lie to me. Sorry, I kind of skipped a paragraph I was supposed to read there, but it's nothing really. Aunt May's just like chewing Peter out for everything that happened, and with Norman Osborn and Harry and Gwen dying. And Peter says he doesn't know what's going on, and she just yells at him to get out. And then she says that thing to Gwen. She says, take whatever this is and get out of my house. And you can see, you know, Gwen kind of looks upset about that. You know, I'm kind of upset about that, Zach.
It's an upsetting scene.
Yeah, she says, you know, you're not my son. Get out. Take your ghosts and your lies and get out. And May screams at Peter while crying. And Peter just looks at May and she screams again, get out. And were you about to say anything before we get into like this next thing that happens?
If there's ever been a point in time when we've been going through these issues and I try not to show it, but if I've ever come across as like harsh on Aunt May or like I don't like Aunt May, it's because this scene has always been so upsetting to me.
Well, I kind of hate this. And I just hate this. I just don't like this scene at all. And what you just said kind of upsets me because I was really, really holding out hope that this was not Aunt May. This was like a clone Aunt May or a different universe or whatever the hell's going on with the clones of people. I was hoping that this was not Aunt May and we were going to get like a take two on all of this because this is so badly done, I think. Like, you know, the way Peter finally... Like, if this was, like, issue 4 or 5 or something, then that's fine, right? It doesn't really matter that much. But I feel like they've, like, almost had this conversation so many times, and then they don't do it. And now when they finally have it, Peter just, like, rambles for, like, 4 panels and doesn't really say anything. And then Aunt May just, like, screams to... When it's not that big of a deal for her either. It's not like he's really doing it. I don't know. Really, really bad stuff.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Everything we've seen so far, like, there's a clone of you that's attacking this mall. MJ gets kidnapped. You get your ass kicked by some girl you don't know. Then Gwen's alive. And then you have to tell Aunt May your secret, and then she responds as poorly as possible. This feels like probably Peter's fever dreams. Like this is like whiplash of like one horrible traumatizing thing after another, all in the same day.
Yeah. Let's see if it can get worse.
Let's see.
So as Aunt May is screaming at Peter, which is just something I don't think she'd do. That's the thing. None of this feels like Aunt May to me. You know,
she has screamed at him before, though.
Yeah,
about the sneaking out and the lying and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. So we see a voice off panel say, "Hey May, when did you get so feisty?" And Peter turns his head and sees his father standing in the doorway. And he says, take it easy on the kid. He's only a kid and he's trying to make the best of an impossible situation. Aunt May says, oh, hey, Richard, wonderful timing for once. Take your son and get out of my house. And Peter's dad says, hiya, kid. And Peter begins to cry, saying, you're alive? Dude, this all just feels so, like, jumped the shark. You know, do you know that term?
Yeah.
This just doesn't feel like it should be real. And I'm hoping that it isn't, but it sounds like it is. But I'm going to take points off for this if all of a sudden Peter's dad is back and and I just don't like all of this that's kind of happened in this issue. So we're back at the Baxter building. Fury is looking at the spider clone with Sue and Reed, and they say that somebody cloned Peter and tried to enhance him. And they tell Fury that someone must be doing super soldier experiments. And Fury calls back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and says, "This is One-Eyed Eagle. Clearance code Ed O'Neill. Get the Spider Slayers ready. The full battalion. And we're going to need a cleaner crew. It's going to get very messy." And I tried to look up, I did look up Ed O'Neill's filmography to maybe see why they made that the clearance code, and I didn't see anything that told me why it would be him.
Yeah, I didn't get the reference either.
And that's it. I'm kind of disappointed. This feels like I don't know, it feels like a really goofy episode where all these random people just keep like popping in and like opening up the door, and like Gwen is there, and then Aunt May's there, and then his dad is there. I just don't know. It's kind of downhill from our first two, if I'm being honest.
Wow. Okay.
What do you think?
I didn't expect you to hate it this much.
I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate it, but I there's just some really disappointing parts to it, I think.
I think we are still early in the Clone Saga. If you were looking for answers at this point, you're not going to find them. They're still asking more questions.
I'm not looking. I just want all of this to not be real. Like, why is Peter's dad back 100 episodes into this run where it's like so important that his parents are dead, and like, this just feels like the Amazing Spider-Man to me. And I think that's why I just didn't like it that much. I'm like, is he about to find fucking nickels in a calculator too? And it's going to go down to the secret lab.
I kind of remember feeling the same way as what you're describing. When I first read this, I was like, this has got to be another dream. This is like Nightmare or Doctor Strange, or like something's happening. He's in like a simulation. I remember having those same thoughts.
Just all this clone stuff, right? We know that there's clones of everybody, right? We know there's 3 Peters, and we've seen Gwen, and we've seen some other spider person that we can assume is a clone of somebody or something. So to me, when Aunt May walks in the door and is doing nothing but screaming about how Peter's not her son and kicking him out of the house and just telling to get Gwen whatever this is, it just feels like this is not a real Aunt May either, And then Peter's dad walks in, and it's like, okay, something is happening. Somebody just like cloned Peter's whole life right now, because like this cannot be real,
My God, it's the 80-year-old mailman from when I was 5 who died years ago. How's he here?
Well, so I rated this. That's funny you said that, because I gave this out of 10 random people showing up, because I don't know, sometimes there are like movies or TV shows where they do that, right? It's just like one after the other of a person walking in the door, and that's what this felt like to me.
The thing in like a TV show where they'll introduce someone that's supposed to be like the big guest appearance, but it's like a B or C lister, and so the characters have to say their name. They're like, "Billy Zane, what are you doing here?"
That's awesome.
It kind of feels like that. Richard Parker, why we haven't seen you in this run at all.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years.
You know who I think Richard Parker really looks like?
Captain Stacy.
No. Look at the... Well, this just shows you that we don't really know what any of these people look like, because when I saw that guy in the doorway, I was like, oh, is this the doctor Aunt May went out on a date with?
Wouldn't that be something?
Was she coming home on a date? But there's the close-up of Richard Parker, and he looks so much like James Franco, I think.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, a little bit.
The first time I read this, I thought he looked like Captain Stacy. And it makes sense kind of if like Gwen is back, why, maybe her dad's back. And even knowing where the story goes, I saw this drawing of him and I was like, that's George Stacy.
I'd have to look back at a picture.
He's got like
the detective suit on, kind of.
Yes.
Is that what you're? Yeah.
The cop look of like, oh, I'm wearing a shirt and a tie, but It's been a long day and this is some dirty work, so I've got it.
Definitely.
I've got it unbuttoned at the top.
Yeah.
So I'm also kind of laid back.
Well, I gave this one 7 out of 10. Random people showing up.
I'll give it a 7 out of 10 also. This is a very hard one to rate on its own because it's so dependent on where the story goes from here. It puts a whole lot of pieces on the board, and sometimes that's interesting, but you got to be able to have a payoff for them. We saw some early issues of that one arc that we called Too Many Heroes, where it's like, oh my God, there's more heroes that just keep showing up. This is going to be incredible. And then it wasn't, but those early issues looked so promising. Yeah. This is kind of that.
Yeah. I don't think that this feels promising though, to me. Like, this feels, I don't know. It like I don't like anything about where real Peter's storyline was that whole issue. Like, I like the stuff with Clone Peter and MJ. I really like the stuff that's going on in the Baxter building. That stuff's really interesting. But I don't like bringing Gwen back from the dead. It's just going to make me sad because it's obviously not Gwen, right? Eventually she's going to like die again or something. So it's just like bringing her back just to be like, oh, is Gwen back? I don't know, maybe, and then it's like we finally get the big conversation and I just don't like it. And then it's the same thing with Peter's dad. It's like, oh my gosh, Peter's dad is back. It's the 100th issue and Peter's dad is back. And it just feels like a bunch of goofiness.
Like a gimmick.
Like a gimmick, exactly.
Okay. Do we have anything else about this one, or do we want to see where it leads? See if they can land the ship.
Let's see where it leads.
All right. Issue 100. What is that? Is penultimate the right word for centennial?
It'd be the centennial.
The centennial issue
is the episode before the last one.
Yeah. I know that. I don't know why I asked the question. It just sounded right for a second. Issue 100, the centennial issue. It's got a nice wraparound cover with a whole bunch of Spider-Men on it.
Had I had this printed out, I would have counted the Spider-Men to see if there was 100. But I couldn't do that with it not printed out.
Were you just going to like mark them off with a marker?
Yeah, exactly. I just put an X on their face when I counted them,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the same creative team. Richard Parker is standing in the doorway in front of Peter, Gwen, and Aunt May. And Peter asks his father how he can be alive. And this is going to be a theme this issue. Richard doesn't really answer and pulls Peter in for a hug. And Peter resists at first, but then hugs back and sheds a tear. And Aunt May yells, "Now get out, all of you. I've had enough Parker drama for the rest of my life. My sister married you, not me. Peter, I don't want you in this house." And I put in my notes, that doesn't seem right, because her and Ben also have the last name Parker.
Wait, just a second. Yeah, it is Ben Parker. So Uncle Ben is Peter's dad's brother, right?
He should be. That seems to be how this family connection has always been presented.
Yeah, she's never once mentioned like her sister or her sister dying. She's not related to the... Yeah. Zach, did we get him?
I think we got him.
We definitely got him, and this is a very simple one to get him on, I think.
Yeah, why would her husband, and then her by extension, take his sister's husband's last name?
Okay, so let's see. Is there any possible way that this... So we know for a fact, right, that Uncle Ben is... It's Uncle Ben is Richard's brother.
Ben Parker.
Yes. So is there a chance that Aunt May also had a sister who married Richard Parker? Is there a chance that she married one brother and her sister married the other brother?
I mean, that is possible. I actually have an aunt and uncle who did that. A brother and sister married the brother and sister from the other family. But they have different last names. They don't have the same last name. It's Evans and it's Schneider. It's not like it would be Evans and Evans or Schneider and Schneider.
Well, if it was two brothers and two sisters, then they would have the same last name if the women took their husbands' names.
But then she wouldn't say, my sister married you, not me.
She would say, you're, my husband's brother, not mine, or something.
Yes.
Oh, we got him.
We got him for sure.
Yep. Put the sirens in. Okay, make sure you put the sirens in.
We John, I hate to tell you this, but there have never been sirens. Do you know how sketchy it is for me to download these sound effects? I never know if one of them is going to be like Chinese malware.
Yeah, I remember those days from video editing. Just go to like any random website and be like, gun effect online or something,
Free download.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally what I have to do, and I hesitate to do it now.
That's funny.
Okay, so Peter says, so May's like, get out of my house, and Peter says no, he wants answers, and he asks Aunt May if she knew his dad was alive, which seems like a reasonable question because that was the one surprise that she was very cool with.
Yeah, and Richard is also like, Aunt May's like yelling, and Richard's like, oh, come on, May, we're having a nice family moment. And it's like, dude, this just doesn't seem like a real person. I don't know. I just can't get over that this doesn't feel real to me. Like,
Yeah.
Richard Parker's almost being like a smug asshole.
He kind of talks like a wax animatronic. Like he has no clue how weird this is for everyone else.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I've got cola and pizza.
Oh, I wasn't there yet. Damn it, John.
Okay, sorry.
Now you're jumping the shark.
Yep.
So Peter repeats back, you knew my dad. Sorry. Peter asks Aunt May if she knew his dad was alive. And she says, yes, I did. And he's like, you knew my dad was alive and didn't tell me? And she says, you're Spider-Man and didn't tell me. And she says she was only trying to protect Peter from this exact thing that Richard is doing right now. And I'm thinking, what? Coming back into his son's life?
I know. And this is also just like, what? She knew that Richard was alive this whole time, and I just doesn't make sense. I'm at a loss for words here.
I will say this, retroactively, we even get a little bit of the timeline of all this later. It seems like she found out that he was alive pretty much right before we saw the issue of her going to therapy and talking to her therapist and saying, like, she feels like she's a bad person. She thinks she's failing Peter. She thinks she's holding on to him too closely because she needs someone, or she's holding on to Gwen because she needs someone, and she's scared of losing them and everything. I think this is a very good retroactive addition to her character. If she didn't, she's lying. She's saying, it was best for Peter to not know or something like that. She didn't want to be alone. And so she selfishly didn't tell him that his dad was alive. And that was, I think, what she was really talking about in that therapy session.
Okay.
And Richard switches his attention to Gwen and starts asking her how she's feeling and if she's hungry. And Richard says, May, can we feed this young girl? And May leaves. I want you all to leave. And Richard just ignores her and opens her fridge and says, May, let's deal with this like family. The girl needs to eat, Peter needs some answers, and we all need a moment here. Look, pizza. Cold pizza is perfect for this. And he turns around smiling and holding a pizza box as Peter and Gwen look at him in shock and Aunt May scowls.
I just want to hear what's going on, you know?
Pretty silly.
It is pretty silly.
So you hate this premise.
I hate this premise. I don't have anything to say about all of this that I haven't said, which is that none of this feels like it's real. I don't want it all to be. I want this to be like clone Peter's dad with clone Aunt May, and that's why they're both acting so weird.
The clone doesn't know how family relationships work and doesn't remember how May became a Parker.
Yeah, exactly. But Richard is just acting like he's I don't know, like his brain's not all the way there.
Yeah.
He's acting like he's in a sitcom, which is what it felt like when they were all walking in the door, being like, and I'm here too, and then applause, and then
Richard holds for applause.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right then.
That's what it looked like. The shot of him holding the pizza box and the Coke. It's like he turned around to do an advertisement for pizza and cola.
Canned laughter plays. Okay, so let's get out of there, go back to the scene that John actually cares about. We switch back to where Mary Jane is a prisoner in a test tube. And evil f***ed up Peter tells her, it's okay, Mary Jane. You're about to transform into something that I won't have to worry about protecting. We're going to be together again. And thus, just then, Foot kicks evil Peter in his stupid face. And we see a black-suited Spidey with 6 arms say, get away from her. And I saw this and I thought, that looks so cool. A 6-armed Spider-Man could probably swing so much faster and do so much more.
This does look pretty cool. But
he's got a diamond on his forehead. What's up, John?
Well, you know what's interesting about his costume is that's not a spider on his costume, is it? I mean, it looks like it's some other type of insect to me.
It kind of looks like the Venom spider logo in the way that it you can tell it was derived from an original Spider-Man suit, but they just kept making it bigger and more stretched out and more blocky and supposed to look scarier, but it just starts resembling a spider less and less.
Yeah, but I like it. It's a cool suit.
It is a cool suit. I like this guy. And back at the Parker house.
Listen, I'd love to watch that Peter Parker going about his day as Peter Parker
Mr. 6 Arms.
He's just we're just never gonna figure out who this Spider-Man guy is. And everyone in the office is humoring him. They're yeah, it's a real mystery who this 6-armed Spider-Man guy is. It could be any of us, really.
Peter, it's 100 degrees. Why are you always wearing that buttoned-up trench coat? So back at the Parker house, Peter, Richard, and Gwen are eating pizza while May glares at them. And Peter asks if his mom is alive too. And Richard starts telling Peter about the suit he was working on and how it was supposed to cure cancer. And Peter's like, yeah, I already know all that. Answer my damn question. And he's like, hold on, I'm getting there. And he talks about how he accidentally created a bioweapon. And Trask Industries, which is the company he was working for, was like, oh, cool, a weapon. We actually like that better. And he explains that there was
Bolivar Trask, for movie people who don't read the comic books, he was the guy in Days of Future Past who makes the Sentinels and everything. He's Peter Dinklage.
Yep, that's always his thing. He's the guy who made the Sentinels. And you might ask yourself, in the comics, so was he a super bigot, or was he some kind of engineer or government weapons contractor? How did he come to create these Sentinels? Nope, he was an anthropologist.
Nice.
Just an
Good for him.
anthropologist who made giant racist killer robots.
You got to start somewhere.
That's true. So Richard explains that there was an expensive court battle to try and get ownership of the suit back from Trask, but they had billions of dollars and Richard didn't, and so he lost. And he eventually ran out of money to fight it, and Trask Industries actually asked him and Eddie Brock Sr. to come back and work for them again, because they were like the only people who understood how the suit worked, and so they needed them to keep developing it. And he says, he looks pretty ashamed. He says, we did it. We took the deal. And we see a flashback to when the Brocks and Parkers were supposed to board a plane for Chicago for a contract signing and a celebration. And Richard got cold feet and a clear conscience at the gate and refused to get on the plane. And he and Peter's mother got into a pretty big fight, and she and the Brocks decided to get on the plane while Richard stayed back. And obviously that plane ended up crashing. And Peter's like, okay, cool story, but how is Gwen alive? Is it because of you? Is that why you're here?
Yeah, Peter just like keeps asking like the same question, and Richard just keeps like talking about anything else. And just like Peter, I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Why is Gwen alive?
Dad, what's going on? Well, it was the summer of 1985. I got my first real six string.
Like. That is like what this story is like.
Played it at the Five and Dime.
Okay, but how is Gwen alive? You know, your mother and I weren't doing well back then. We probably would have gotten divorced, but then she died.
Dad, I'm so confused. Is my mom alive? Son, have you ever seen Jurassic Park? I know it may look silly now, but back then in the theaters, people really thought those dinosaurs were real. So he asks, is this all because of you? Is that why Gwen's alive? Is that why you're here? And Richard says yes. And then we change scenes back to Oscorp, and the two Peter clones are still fighting. And we're really pulling hard for this six-armed one. He seems to be Mary Jane's best hope at rescue. And I don't know how a two-armed Peter beats a six-armed Peter, but that's sure what happens. He wins the fight, and it seems like he breaks six-armed Peter's neck. And he looks back at Mary Jane and says, "It's okay, sweetie. It's okay."
Oh, man. I don't even think I clocked that our six-armed Peter got, like, destroyed. Oh, so he's dead, we're supposed to think?
Yeah.
I'm beginning to think that this Peter with the burned up face who's holding Mary Jane hostage might not be a good guy. I know he's Peter Parker and he's in a Spider-Man outfit, but something feels off about this guy.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on him. And back at the Parker house, Richard says, "Now this is the part you're probably not going to like." And he explains how he was so messed up and depressed and not capable of raising his son that he just decided to let everyone think...
just needs to be like, Richard, nobody cares. Get to the point, okay?
He's like, I took all of this very hard. I was in a very bad place. I wouldn't have been a good father. So I just thought, why not fake my own death? The flight logs showed that I was on that plane. Let's let everyone think I died with them. And so that's what he does. And he's like watching May and Ben raise little Peter. And he's just like off on the side of a park with like a 5 o'clock shadow watching them. And someone comes up to him and is like, his life living incognito did not last very long at all. This person immediately found him and was like, "You don't look dead, Mr. Parker."
Yeah, dude. It's almost like going outside in no costume at all watching your son from a distance is the best place to stay hidden.
This guy's problem is he thinks life is a TV show or a movie, and it definitely isn't.
He does.
And
he does.
hasn't learned that lesson. And the guy is Henry Gyrick, who is, like Bolivar Trask, another X-Men figure. And he says he works for the CIA, and he's like, do you know who Nick Fury is? And he's like, no, I don't. And he says, okay, well, you will someday. He's this up-and-comer with the government who wants to make a super soldier serum and create a team of Captain Americas to police the world. And we here at the CIA don't like that and don't trust him. And so the CIA asked Richard to continue his work in secret. They say, work for us because we're the good guys, because the CIA has never done anything shady. And Richard says he doesn't want to make a weapon. And Gyrick says, everything is a weapon. This spoon is a weapon. That's the kind of thinking that got your wife killed. And he says the Parkers and the Brock's plane went down on purpose. They had become a problem to a psychopathic billionaire who now thinks he's eliminated the problem. And I think he's kind of hinting that that's Trask, but if they were going to work for Trask, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I was thinking about that also. Like, but it does make sense if you think of it like Trask wanted to make a deal with them, you know, so he's like, oh yeah, come over here and sign the deal, and then he like blows up their plane before they, you know, it's just maybe like a way to get all of them on the same, you know, this in the same plane, so then there can be a plane accident.
Right, but aren't they still also the only people capable of like developing that science?
I don't think that I think that they already had the suit. So
Clearly
they
didn't,
them.
because
They only needed them for like legal reasons, I think is what they were saying.
It's still just a prototype. I mean, that was the whole point of the Venom arc was, they never quite finished it, but they were really onto something.
I just read it as like legally they just are, it's easier to deal with being gone than dealing with all of this shit.
It almost made me wonder, and I don't want this to be the case because I don't like, everything comes back to the Osborns and the Parkers. I almost wonder if it was Norman Osborn taking out the competition.
Oh.
Because he's a psychopathic billionaire.
Yeah.
But anyways...
and Bolivar Trask is a government worker, right?
He wants to make it... He wants to make it a weapon.
So he wouldn't be a billionaire.
Well, no. I think he's like a weapons provider to the government. He's like a Tony Stark or a Boeing or Raytheon kind of thing. Gyrick is the one who works for the government. And Gyrick says he needs Richard to one-up what he's already made so they can stay ahead of the suit Trask has, and also take down Nick Fury when the time comes. And Peter asks again, how is Gwen alive? And Richard promises he's getting there. And we see Gyrick showing Richard a video of Peter fighting Venom. And he explains, this is like some time has passed. He's worked for the government a while. Peter has grown up and become Spider-Man. And it's shots that we've seen from the Venom arc, and it's Gyrick showing him Peter fighting Venom, and he explains to Richard that that's his suit and that's his son, and Nick Fury's already gotten to him. And I said this is where we see Richard visit May one night as she was getting off work, and he scares her at first but then explains everything to her. She calls him a monster and tells him to go to hell and stay away from her and Peter. And this is what made me think that this is where she started going to therapy, is we got the therapy issue after the Venom arc. So he sees Peter fighting Venom. He knows that that's his suit. He knows his son's Spider-Man. And then he goes to May, and that's what breaks her and when she starts going.
And we also know that happened when he was still dating Mary Jane, because then we see Richard like watching Peter and Mary Jane from a distance.
Yeah, he goes to the school and he kind of spies on Peter.
Okay. I don't like it. More retroactive. Oh, now May knew he was alive the whole time, and
but it fits the timeline, which I appreciate. I hate retcons that just don't make a lick of sense.
Yeah, this is one that makes a ton of sense.
Okay, you know what I mean. Like if it just totally broke continuity. If they were like, oh, actually...
This literally did totally break continuity. The whole thing was that his parents were dead.
Okay, I don't know how to describe it. It fits the timeline.
Has this happened before in any Spider-Man stories, or is this kind of the first time they experimented with this? Like, maybe Peter's parents weren't dead and they're still alive.
I mean, I think people have like tried to hint at that thread, but they didn't come back for any meaningful amount of time in the main universe.
Okay.
Mostly they just do like, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff that are like stories set in the past from when they were alive.
Okay.
So Peter asks again how Gwen is alive. We should have been keeping track of how many times he asked this. And Richard says, you were never supposed to see her. This wasn't about you. This was a natural progression of the work we were already doing. And John, I'm starting to think that Richard Parker is not a good guy.
I would be, if you didn't already tell me that this was like all real, I would be like, I'm certain that he is like a clone or something is going on here. Like, this is surely not Peter's dad.
He's like going to great lengths to explain being like a corporate shill and then a deadbeat absent father, and now he's like getting to the part where he's like, okay, so son, do you know what eugenics is? It's a great and beautiful science that I've been experimenting in for quite some time.
Yeah, he's just not, he's not being a good guy right now.
No.
But maybe he'll redeem himself.
We'll see. But before he can say anything else, this whole story never even got to his damn conclusion that he kept hinting at. Because a blinding light comes through the window and a voice says, you are surrounded. And outside, Nick Fury and dozens of armed and armored S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are standing on the front lawn. And Richard tells Peter to suit up. They're not here to talk. They're here to fight. And before he can, Gwen starts having a panic attack. And her clothes rip off and she transforms into Carnage and yells, no! And Carnage Gwen jumps through the window at the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And Aunt May falls over clutching her heart.
Now we gave Aunt May a heart attack.
Everything's happening so
fast.
I
know, yeah, it is.
And meanwhile, in the Oscorp lab, we see Mary Jane's point of view as she wakes up, and evil Peter tells her, congratulations, MJ, it's an all-new you.
A lot of bad stuff going on here.
Okay, John, I was going to say out of 100 issues that we've read so far, but now I want to change it.
Well, okay.
Out of 10 times Peter asks, how is Gwen alive?
Okay.
What do you give this?
My rating system was going to be out of 10 nickels found in a calculator. But we'll do out of 10 times Peter asks, how is Gwen alive? I will say 6.5. I didn't really like it. I liked it a little less than the first one, so I'll say 6.5. But Zach, you can like it.
I'm going to give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7 because, again, it feels inconclusive. It's so wrapped up in, like, how are they going to stick this landing that you can't grade this as like a standalone issue. If someone was like, I want to get into this Ultimate Spider-Man run that everyone's been talking about, I'll start with issue 100. You would be so lost. This is not that kind of a story.
Yeah. So are there 5 or 6
What?
in Clone Saga?
Let me see here. I should have known this ahead of time.
Surely the next one won't be the finale of it, because we
It's-
haven't even seen what happened to MJ yet.
I know it's not. Let me see here. If I remember right, this is like the longest story in the whole thing.
Oh, really? Oh. Well, I could just Google it, probably.
It goes to 105.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. So this is a 9-parter.
Yep. 9 months of storytelling.
Okay, so we've got plenty of time to say that this was all a fever dream.
And maybe they will. Maybe that's how
Peter's going to
resolves.
wake up. Peter's going to wake up and be like, "Oh my gosh, I have to be honest with Aunt May. I've now seen the worst way this could possibly go. I tell Aunt May, she kicks me out. Then my dead dad comes back. Then Gwen turns into Carnage. Then Aunt May dies from a heart attack in front of me. This was the worst case scenario here."
It's so funny because the nightmare dream that he had when he fought Nightmare with Doctor Strange, that was supposed to be like, oh, this is the worst case stuff that could happen. What if Mary Jane becomes like a zombie and rises from the ground and pulls you down? And what if no one is safe and all this and that? And it was like so unrealistic. And this is way scarier than that.
Okay, so do we have anything else on Clone Saga Spider-Man?
So I did make an observation while I was reading this. I have always thought of the Clone Saga as like the final piece of a trilogy of some arcs that we've had. And now I'm starting to wonder, it might be like part 4 of 4 of these issues. I don't know if you noticed this, but every like 30 issues approximately, we do some long story about Peter's genes and his genetics, and someone takes a sample of Peter's blood and he does something that he thinks is for the greater good and it backfires. And so we had the Venom arc where Eddie Brock shows him the suit and we start all of this stuff about his parents' work. And then we had the Carnage arc, which was a continuation of the Venom stuff, and when he gave Dr. Connors his blood, and then it kills Gwen. And now all of a sudden it seems like all of that stuff is coming back again. Like Venom is important. Carnage is important because apparently Gwen is Carnage. His father is important because we're revisiting his father's work. Somehow people got Peter DNA apparently for these clones. So at what point in the story did we get that DNA? Do these clones have the memories of Peter up to a certain point? Yeah. And then I also realized, because I've always thought of it in terms of this is the finale of Venom and Carnage. But now I'm also realizing if you go approximately 30 issues back before the Venom stuff started, what is the very first arc of this series? It's about Peter's genetics. It's about getting bit by the spider, and Oscorp is like stealing his blood. They have Doc Ock just be like, hey, Peter, wouldn't it be cool if I ran a blood test on you? And he just pricks him and takes it and is like, okay, wasn't that neat? And he never got his consent or anything. It feels like I don't know why, but for these first 100 issues, it starts out about, Peter's genetics and science and all of this stuff, and then it progresses and continues. And if you wanted to, you could probably just read those 4 arcs in a row and skip everything else. And it kind of tells one continuous story.
Yeah. No, I didn't realize that, but as you say it, I mean, that makes sense that they do kind of keep coming back to the same genetic storyline.
And it's like specifically every 30 issues.
Yeah.
There's a weird rhythm to it. That's it. That's all I had.
There you go. There you go. I don't have
John,
any. Yep.
You don't have anything else?
I don't have anything else.
All right.
Nope.
Did you watch X-Men by chance?
No, I didn't, Zach.
Oh.
I know. I planned on it all week, and last night I was gonna watch it last night, and then I
Just
turned
didn't.
it on. I turned it on for like 5 minutes as I was getting in bed, and then I was like, I'm not going to be up for another hour and a half. You know, it was already like 1:30. Obviously, we woke up kind of early to do this, and I had to smoke the ham in the morning. So I was like, I'm not gonna watch 3 episodes. So I just won't watch any of them, and I'll just go to sleep. But I did see within the first minute they talk about how Charles Xavier's dead, and I'm like, okay, well, he's like my favorite character, and he's immediately dead in the show. So it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, because it's a continuation of the show that came out in 92 and ended. Because 1997 would have been like the 5th season of it. So that's why it's called X-Men 97.
And he was dead in that series.
It's I don't know why they're acting like he's dead. That's like the cover for the world. He's really just in space with his bird dictator girlfriend getting some poon.
Oh, good for him. Okay.
But the X-Men keep saying, even among themselves, oh, he's dead, he's gone. So I don't know what the deal is with this show.
Yeah, I will watch them all before next week, but no, I didn't watch them. Did you watch Invincible?
I did, yeah, because I said I would.
Yeah, you follow through on what you say.
Yeah, it's getting good. I'm pretty excited about that.
I know, me too. I think there might just be 1 episode left, or maybe more. There might only be 8 episodes in the season, so
I would kind of hate that because I am now in the groove of wanting to watch more of it.
I know it'd be nice if we at least got like 10. We'll see.
I always hate Seth Rogen. I've just never found him funny or interesting or anything. I kind of think he's like smug or whatever. But his character, Alan the Alien, is just my favorite. I get so happy when he shows up.
I know. He is great. And this looks like it is just going to be 8 episodes. Kind of a bummer, but
damn it. So there's one more and that's it?
So there's one more, and then we have to wait for another 3 years to get more episodes.
Jesus. I might just have to start reading the comics.
Yeah, actually, these comics do seem like they are really good. Whenever I watch things and they talk about the comics, I think the same thing. I'm like, oh, this would be fun to kind of pick up and read.
I'm now like very invested in this like superhero world, which is always hard for me to get into a new one because Marvel is so big. You have to know so much, and it's like you put in all that work and you're like, well, I don't want to do that with some other. I'm never going to read DC because it'd be like starting all over from scratch. This feels like a good like middle ground where it's fleshed out, but it's easy to
There's not
grasp.
a billion characters and all this stuff. You know, it's yeah, I agree. Oh shoot, what was I gonna say when you know who I really like in Invincible that hasn't been in a couple episodes? The Mauler twins.
Yeah, I was wondering about them.
Those guys are awesome.
Yeah. I also like Adam Eve. She's like my favorite.
Yeah. Basically, all the characters are pretty good. It's just a good show.
Every time we see Donald, we think he looks like one of the guys from King of the Hill. He looks like Bobby grown up.
Yeah, he does. Zach, this is kind of sad, but did you hear about the guy from Gen V?
Gen V guy, yeah.
Dude.
27 years old.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
So young.
I know. It is just really sad.
Motorcycles are dangerous, guys. Stay safe out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly doesn't matter to say anything now, but like, man, why? It's just doesn't need to happen, right? Just drive a car. Okay. You got any other fun stuff for us to talk about? We talked about Invincible. I didn't read X-Men. We already did the basketball games. So, you know, this is the #1 comic book podcast for sports fans and vice versa.
Gee. What a downer to end on.
Oh, I stink.
We got to think of something else. Can't do it. That's it.
No, okay, we can do this. What's something else I've been watching recently? What's something else I've been watching recently?
Oh, dude, I can slander LeBron James some more. So the Lakers were in Indy on Friday for a game, and I was walking around Indy, and I was like, what is up with all these people in Lakers jerseys? What are all these people doing? There was like a crowd outside of this hotel in downtown Indianapolis on either side of the entrance, all in Lakers jerseys. And I was in the Arts Garden, which is like this big clear glass solarium place that runs over the street and connects to like the mall and the event center and different stuff.
Okay.
And there was people up there lined up along the glass looking down on the street at this hotel at all these people lined up. And I'm like, what is going on? And I realized that's where the Lakers are staying. All of these people in Indiana got up, went downtown on a Friday night in their Lakers jerseys. Maybe they're going to the game too. I don't know. They're just posted up outside this hotel to get a glimpse of LeBron. And I'm like, you virgins, this is so weird. You're acting like he's the Pope or something. Like, he's just going to walk from point A to point B. He's going to get on the bus. He's not going to acknowledge you.
I mean, I literally did that for Andrew Luck when I was in college, and he was at a bar in Bloomington. And I did
that's
the same
different.
thing. I lined up and watched him walk out the bar, walk into the car, and leave. And you know what, Zach? That was actually a really like telling moment in my life, because I was like, "You dork! Why?
What are you doing?"
I know, and now I would never do that again, unless it was like Peyton Manning or Reggie Miller or something. You know, I'd go.
I was about to say that's the difference because Andrew Luck is cool and is a local boy, or at least was. You know, he played for us, and LeBron is a little bitch, and I know more about the X-Men than him.
That's true. I actually only go to I only stan people who know more about the X-Men than me. I don't care about any other stuff.
You know, you got to have a line, you know, that you draw in the sand. Everyone's got to have something to fight for.
Well, I've got one other thing we should talk about before we wrap up, and that is this solar eclipse that's coming up. Zach, are you guys doing anything for it?
Everyone keeps talking about the solar eclipse. My family has asked me 15 times, do I have the day of the solar eclipse off? And I was like, no. And
neither do we. We have a half day at school.
They're like, that's so ironic because you work for the Department of Transportation and they're issuing travel warnings, but they're making you come into the office on that day.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a nightmare. I was really hoping that the school would go to a e-learning day. Is Shyla working? Is she e-learning that day?
She gets it off.
Dude, that's awesome. But no, we have a half day. It sucks.
Are you doing anything for it?
Yeah, I'm going to walk out into my backyard and I'm going to turn and look at the sun for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to go back into my house and I don't know.
Yeah,
watch TV.
I might do that for my office. I might, just take a 5-minute break and go outside.
Oh, I bet everybody will. I bet everyone will. Except, I have this thought that maybe I told you and Shyla this when we were driving to the Lexington Comic Con, that this is like what a supervillain would do, is like sell a bunch of solar eclipse glasses that are just like regular tinted glasses, and they're just going to blind like half of the population in one day. And I am a little bit nervous about that. I think there's a non-zero chance that that's going to happen. So I'm probably going to put on like 4 pairs of glasses and look at it.
Do you remember the last one where everyone was like, you got to wear your glasses. You can't look directly at it. You'll get blinded. And then our president is standing there on the White House lawn just staring at it.
Because, dude, I remember the exact clip. He's just like looking up. Oh, see that? He's pointing at the sun. Oh man, that's good times.
Yeah,
love him or hate him, We'll never have a funnier president.
What's the thing that one bowler said? Love me or hate me, you watched.
Is that a bowler thing?
Yeah, it's the
That's
guy.
great.
It's the. I mean, I don't know anything about bowling, but it's the exact bowler that you would expect. It's the guy who says, "Who do you think
Who do you think you are? I am.
I am."
Pete Weber.
When
Let's
he
go.
retired, he was like, "Love me or hate me, you watched."
Did you know Pete Weber's favorite bowling alley is Woodland Bowl on 96th Street?
Let's go.
I know. He's like no, he's not from Indiana. You wouldn't know why that's there because I go there every Wednesday and it smells like BO and it's like, just a standard bowling alley, but Pete Weber says it's his favorite bowling alley.
How about that?
That's my favorite too.
That sounds an awful lot like when a band is on tour and they're like, Indianapolis, we love you. It's been so long. You're one of our favorite cities.
He's like sitting down in Woodland Bowl. And they're like, how's it feel to be back here? And he's like, this is my favorite bowling alley. The nacho cheese is delicious.
He says that to all of them.
Yep.
Well, cool. I feel good about ending it here.
Yep. Me too. Okay.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Another one in the books. Happy Easter.
Join us next week for issues 101 and 102.
Yep. Thank you to Ian Hickey for the music and Alyssa Seaman for our artwork. And thank you all for listening and leaving us a review or a comment. You can find us the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere else that you can find podcasts. And you can leave us a comment on Instagram at First Read Podcast. Send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, First Read Ultimate Spider-Man Podcast. See you next week. Boiler up.
See ya. Boiler up.